Rich girl math, watch it grow. Every dollar's got somewhere to go. Rich girl math.
Hello, this is Retta. Welcome to Rich Girl Math. We talk about investing for women. Grab your bottle of water, settle in, and let's learn today. Nobody teaches women how to invest, so we do. Do add your comments, share, and subscribe to our channel. Quick disclaimer before we start. This video is for educational purposes only and is not financial advice. Inheriting money changes things. Not just your bank account, but your sense of possibility, your stress level, and sometimes your relationships. And that's exactly why the first 30 days matter so much. Most people who inherit money and later regret how they handled it didn't make their biggest mistakes on day 1. They made them on day 15 or day 22, when the initial shock wore off and they started moving fast. If you're watching this, you've either just inherited money or you're preparing for that moment, and I want to help you avoid those regrets. If this kind of practical financial guidance resonates with you, please subscribe to the channel. We break down money decisions in a calm, clear way that actually helps. Now let's walk through what the first 30 days should look like. The very first thing to understand is this: you don't have to do anything immediately. That feeling of urgency you might have right now is normal, but it's also the feeling that leads to mistakes. Inheritance comes with an emotional weight. We're often grieving someone. You're thinking about mortality. You're imagining what this money could change. And in that state, your brain is not in its clearest decision-making mode. So the actual first step is permission. You have permission to slow down. You have permission to do nothing for a few days, except let the reality of the situation settle. That's not procrastination. That's wisdom. Now, there are some things that do need attention in that first week, and they're mostly administrative. If you haven't already, you need to make sure the money is somewhere safe. If it's being held in a probate account or estate account, that's fine. If you've inherited it directly into a personal account, make sure that account has FDIC insurance protection. If the amount is large enough that it exceeds FDIC limits, that's $250,000 per depositor per bank. You need to split it across multiple banks or into a money market account at a brokerage. This gives you more safety and better returns anyway. This is not an investment decision. This is a safety decision. You're not trying to grow the money yet. You're just making sure nothing bad happens to it. The second administrative task is to gather all relevant documents. Find the will if there's one. Get copies of the death certificate. Understand whether there are any estate taxes owed, whether you inherited other assets beyond just cash, and whether there are any restrictions on how you can use the money. Some inheritances come with stipulations. Some don't. You need to know which one you have. If the inheritance is large enough or complicated enough, spend a couple $100 and have an estate attorney review the documents. That clarity is worth far more than the cost. This is the rule that prevents most inheritance regrets. And I want you to really hear this. Money brings out unexpected behavior in people who love you. Suddenly, cousins you haven't spoken to in years remember your birthday. Friends mention their business ideas. Family members you barely know reach out with opportunities. Your extended family might have expectations about what you should do with money that came from shared relatives. None of those people are necessarily bad. It's just what money does. It changes the dynamic. The wisest thing you can do in the first 30 days is keep this information tight. Tell only the people who absolutely need to know. A spouse or partner if you have one, maybe a parent if you're young and they're still advising you. Everyone else can wait. You'll feel relieved by that boundary, and you'll make clearer decisions without an invisible audience. So now we're past the first week. The money is safe. You understand the legal situation. You've kept it private. Now comes the hard part. Doing nothing while your brain is screaming at you to do something. And this is where most people stumble. Inheriting money feels like an opportunity that's slipping away if you don't act on it immediately, but it's not. Money doesn't expire. It doesn't have a deadline. What it does have is permanence. Decisions you make with it will follow you for years. Bad decisions especially. Weeks 2 and 3 are for information gathering, not action. If you don't have a clear picture of your full financial situation, now is the time to build one. Write down your current debts, credit cards, student loans, car loans, mortgage if you have one. Write down your monthly expenses, rent, utilities, food, transportation, insurance, everything. Write down your assets, retirement accounts, savings, investments, anything of value. This is not about feeling bad about debt. It's about understanding the full picture so you can make informed decisions about the inheritance. You might have $50,000 in credit card debt at 20% interest. That's costing you $10,000 a year in interest alone. From a pure financial perspective, paying that off creates an immediate guaranteed return. Or you might have a mortgage at 3%, in which case paying that off is actually not the best use of your money. You can't make that decision without the full picture. During these weeks, also think about your life itself, not just your finances. Do you like your job? Are you burnt out? Do you want to stay in your city? Is your living situation right for you? Is there something you've been postponing because of money? The point is not to make any decisions yet. The point is to get honest about what's actually true about your life right now. Sometimes money feels like the solution to a problem that's actually much bigger. If you hate your job but you're making good money, inheriting more money won't fix the problem. You'll just be more stuck. If you've been postponing something important because you didn't have time or money, now might be the moment, but you need to think clearly about it. By week 3, you should also start getting educated about your options. If you're going to invest the money, read 1 or 2 books about investing. If you're considering paying off debt, understand the math behind it. If you're thinking about buying property, research the market in your area. If you're considering a career change or starting a business, talk to people who've done it. You're not committing to anything. You're just becoming informed enough that when you do make a decision, it's grounded in reality, not fantasy. Week 4 is when you can start making moves, but here's the key constraint. You can only make one significant financial decision per month in this first month, not multiple. 1. This is the rule that prevents inheritance regrets. People who regret their inheritance decisions usually have a story like this. They paid off their mortgage, then invested 30%, then started a business, then helped out a family member, and by the end of 6 months, the money was scattered across 4 different strategies, and none of them worked well. You can't do that. You need focus, and the best way to have focus is to choose one thing. What should that one thing be? Here's the framework. First, address any high-interest debt. If you have credit card debt, that's your priority. If you have high-interest personal loans, that's your priority. The math is clear. You're not going to get a 12% return from investing, so paying off 12% debt is objectively the right move. Second, if you don't have an emergency fund, build one. 3 to 6 months of living expenses in a high-yield savings account. This is not exciting, but it is foundational. If you don't have this and something unexpected happens, you'll end up taking on more debt, which defeats the whole purpose of the inheritance. Third, if you have retirement accounts with employer matching and you're not maxing them out, do that. It's free money, and it's tax-advantaged. Fourth, if you want to invest, start, but invest in low-cost index funds in a diversified portfolio that matches your timeline and your risk tolerance, not in individual stocks or crypto or your friend's business idea. Now, some of you inherited a small amount, maybe $5,000 or $10,000, and some of you inherited much more. The principles stay the same, but the magnitude changes. If you inherited $5,000, your emergency fund might be your entire decision. If you inherited $500,000, you have more complexity to navigate. But the framework is identical. Slow down, understand your full situation, keep it private, educate yourself, and then make one clear decision. Don't scatter the money across 10 different strategies in the hope that one of them will work out. That's how people lose inherited money. Focus beats complexity every single time. Let me also say this directly. If you inherited money and you're now getting pitched investment opportunities by people who suddenly care about your financial future, be very skeptical. The best investment opportunities don't come with a sales pitch. They come from boring index funds at low cost, or from increasing your own earning potential through education or career moves. Anyone who needs you to move quickly, who says the opportunity won't last, who promises extraordinary returns, or who needs you to invest with them specifically, be careful. That's not wisdom. That's self-protection. Most good financial moves don't require urgency. There's also the question of giving money away. Some people inherit and immediately want to help family members or give to causes. That impulse comes from a good place, but if you give away the inheritance before you've really processed what you have and what you need, you might end up regretting it, not because giving is bad, but because you gave without intention. If you want to help someone, wait until you're in a clear state of mind. Then make a specific plan. How much can you actually give without jeopardizing your own stability? What problem is this gift actually solving? Is there a better way to help than just giving cash? These are good questions, and they deserve clear answers, not emotional reactions. By the end of 30 days, here's what you should have done. You've moved the money somewhere safe and boring, a high-yield savings account or a similar holding spot. Not locked away, not exposed to risk, just parked while you think clearly. You know exactly what you inherited, line by line, cash, a retirement account, property, or some combination. And you understand which pieces come with deadlines and which don't. You haven't made a single large, irreversible decision. No big purchases, no handing money to a sure-thing investment. No impulsive gifts made from guilt or grief instead of genuine choice. You've had at least one real conversation with a tax professional, so you're not guessing about what you owe or when. And you've just started, thinking about what this money actually means for your life, on your own timeline, without anyone else's expectations attached to it. That's it. That's the whole first 30 days. Not a finished plan, just a foundation solid enough that whatever you decide next, you're deciding it clearly, not reactively.
Rich girl math, watch it grow. Every dollar's got somewhere to go. Rich girl math, she already knows. Rich girl math, do the math with me. Small moves now, big money we'll see. Rich girl math, that's the energy. Used to think this wasn't